Welcome back, elite CTKS members, Masterclass students, and CTKS Global family. What we do each and every day, well, what we've been doing for the past couple of days is been putting in ABC. Now, ABC is a great way to look at price. Just for example, we put in an A, we put in a B, and we put in a C down here. Now, notice how the price actually went 2 days ago. It came down to C, it went up to A, and then it reversed and came down to C. What about yesterday? We put a A, we put a B, which is a consolidation, and we put a C, which is a negative path. Now, what do we notice there? It went A, it went B, and it went partially C. The target for C was, of course, down a little bit more further than that, down. But the issue is we've got a C, we've got an A, B, C. What do you think we're going to get today? Of course, we know that price moves because of intercorrelation and interconnection between charts, and that's why we look at the cheat sheet. It is our first port of call. But there's something really important. Even though the market went to C 2 days ago and it went to C yesterday, so you've got this C here, you've got this C here, but look at this. Look at this upsurge here. You can take advantage of that. And I want to show you someone from our community who did exactly that. This is a trade from CryptoTurtle, and CryptoTurtle was trading Pepe with the indicator from the service. These buys are structural. These sells are structure. And when you know where the structural buy levels are, where the structural sell levels are, even if you get an AC move, you're going to be okay. Things can end up actually down on the day, but you can make profit. And CryptoTurtle made 7% in 1 day and 20 hours from this move. Well done, my friend. Now, this means a couple of really important things. You may be subjected to negative price momentum throughout a day, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't either escape a particularly bad trade, or you can actually know where the structure is and make buys and sells from that upsurge or downsurge. And don't forget, it can go the other way too, and we can make money under those conditions. All markets are intercorrelated and interconnected, and we use this intercorrelation to our advantage. A lot of people say that the markets are manipulated, but they don't understand. They're just intercorrelated. They're not manipulated. I covered this off in yesterday's video, as well as this specific chart. Now, this is very interesting because it looks like the VIX futures are telling us that upward price momentum is possible if we get a continuation of the inverse VIX futures. Now, the one thing that we have to keep on our radar, of course, is the unwinding of the Japanese carry trade. As I mentioned in the service video for this month, if dollar-yen starts to nosedive, the Japanese carry trade will be unwinding. So far, we've done actually quite well. It's not unwinding. It hasn't literally got back below that negative area. So that is actually quite a good thing. But we will know today. Just bear in mind, the markets are likely to be highly volatile. So if you think the past 2 days were bad, get prepared for today. And if you think the past 2 days were really good, get prepared for today as well. The Bank of Japan is set to increase its interest rate by 25 basis points. So this is a very important thing because when the Japanese bank, well, the Bank of Japan, it's just had an ultra easy lending policy out to the rest of the world. People have just borrowed literally trillions of dollars at literally no interest rate whatsoever. So if the interest rate, just think about it like this, if you buy to your capacity on your home mortgage and the interest rate is just say 0.25%, that is 25 basis points. And all of a sudden you're maxed out at that level and then the interest rate goes up 25 basis points, which is 0.25%, but your interest payments, they just doubled. That mortgage strain could be enough for the bank to come in and repossess your property. So please just be aware. These small increases, they seem small, but people leverage up to the eyeballs. So today, expect a lot of volatility to the upside and also to the downside. Remember this, yes, it did go C. Yes, it did go C, but it went A as well during the day. And a lot of people just look at a breakout like this and say, oh, I'm going to miss out. I need to just get in, and the trade turns against them. It's very important to know where the structural levels are. With the CTKS method, we never trade with emotion. We trade with structural awareness. We need to know where the structure is. We need to know how different charts are intercorrelating and interconnecting. We are financial residents, where the majority of the market are actually financial tourists. So what is a financial tourist? A financial tourist is somebody who sees and obeys Warren Buffett's first law of investing. Never make a loss. Now, of course, that is impossible. Losses are just part of the market. You cannot avoid a loss. The only thing that you can do is to keep it small. And the reason that I've been doing these ABC paths is to help you see just how variable price is within a specific 24-hour period. Even though it can finish down, it doesn't mean it can't spike up. And if something is spiking up, it doesn't mean that it can't finish down. And this is the nature of one of the most important rules you'll ever make your own. That rule is Rule 4, price moves in waves. Price moves in waves is an incredibly important rule. Now the question becomes how we can profit from CTKS structure. Now CTKS structure is all those dotted lines that occur inside price charts, and we get them from level 1 and level 2 standard certification markups. Now there is a specific process that we apply. First, we must look to the cheat sheet. If you haven't looked at the cheat sheet, I would advise you not to trade, not to invest, because you simply don't know the intercorrelation and interconnection. The next thing is just to assess the structure. Are we at structural resistance? Are we at structural support? Where are we? Are there any big negative gaps that exist in price history? If there are, they are panic gaps to the downside and also to the upside. Just a quick question. What is the structure like on the S&P 500, the SPX? That is a very important thing that you need to just be aware of. Also, we have what's called your money chart. Now, your money chart is where you trade and invest. That's the things that you like to put money into. But we can't just look at a money chart, and this is where a lot of people get trapped. You have to look at CTKS structure in terms of the charts that move the market. For example, if you're inside the crypto market, looking at Bitcoin and total crypto market cap are an absolute basic necessity. Before, you would look at Solana or XRP or Doge or ADA, whatever that particular chart would be. Make sure that you can read between charts. This is a very advanced skill, but it is absolutely critical. I teach it within the Profiting course. But the concept is one chart impacts another chart. You have to understand how your money chart is being moved around by other charts. Another thing to just bear in mind, do not be bullied by the market. I don't like bullies, and I can tell you, bullies, the market will try to bully you, so you must stand strong, stand tall, and not be bullied. Now, how do we prevent being bullied? We harness a very strong mindset. We are kind people, but that doesn't mean we're doormats. We understand that we must be very, very selective with where we enter and exit different plays. And you can see from Crypto Turtle's trade, he entered at a level of structural support and exited at a level of structural resistance. And you'll find that CTKS structure is literally X-ray vision. If it's not a quality setup, just don't get involved. Now, a lot of people say, oh, my job is a trader or an investor. I need to get into the market. I need to deploy my capital. This week, I've talked about patience. I've talked about volatility. I've talked about manipulation. I've talked about so many things to enhance your mindset. Okay, let's do some practical stuff. Now, when we look into Bitcoin, we can see that Bitcoin has been coming down so far. It is still under negative price momentum, even though we've kicked up here, and you can make profit on these kick-ups. You can make profits and buy at going long at spot, or you can use leverage, but please be careful with leverage. Capital preservation is not just a word, it's your license to stay in the market. If a trade is not going the way that you would expect it would go, just get out of it. You can come back in again. Now, what we've seen here is Bitcoin has been very, very volatile this week, from C to A to C, but the downtrend to C. Another downtrend yesterday, but first A and then passing through B and arriving at C. So we've had 2 down days. Now, we know that there's a lot of volatility, and the potential is the Bank of Japan is going to increase interest rates, and that means that the carry trade could unwind. The last time it unwound inside markets, we had a lot of negative momentum. This is not a reason to be scared, it's just a reason to be aware. Now, when we look at level 1 and level 2 standard certification markup of Bitcoin, we can see, fortunately, that there are a ton of buyers underneath Bitcoin's price. These buyers will defend the $80,000 up to the $83,000 mark. Now, this is very important. Even if we get a lot of panic in the Japanese carry trade, there is structural support down here. That is vital. If we were sitting on the top of a negative fresh air gap, a negative CTKS gap, there was no structure below, that would take us back into November. And in November, we saw that there was an absolute lack of structural support inside the crypto market, and price just filled that gap. Now, this is looking quite good. So if we get downside negative volatility, yes, we could overshoot the 80,000. Anything is possible. It depends on the panic inside the market. But there's something pretty neat here too. We don't have that much in the way of overhead structure, the structural resistance as well. So if things start to take off, they could take off quite substantially. Please let me know in the comments, what do you think it is, A, B, or C? And I have to say, we have an absolutely awesome community. And to all those awesome people, I think you're awesome. Because you are. We know that we must look at total crypto market cap and then Bitcoin and then, Bitcoin and total and Bitcoin, and then of course our money chart. So looking over that same kind of period of time, what we see here is that total crypto market cap is weaker than Bitcoin. Now, why is this the case? This particular low here that we just experienced was higher on Bitcoin. Why? Because we're getting a flight to safety out of the alts and into Bitcoin. This is quite normal and very customary. Now, what we need to see is where the structure is according to level 1 and level 2 standard certification across the entire crypto market. And look at this confluence. As we came up into A, we had all of this overhead structural resistance. There are quite a few levels. I'll show you. You can literally just draw a rectangle if you've got the indicator from the service, and that will help you to understand where structure actually resides. Of course, you can see it if it's on your computer, and it's pretty easy to see if you've got the indicator. But if you're looking through YouTube, it can be a little bit tricky, so I'll just put this here for you. Now, what we see is there is definitely overhead structural resistance about that $2.97 trillion mark at around the 2.94. Now, we have structural support around that 2.78. Remember, you read these lines to the right. Lines to the right? Yes, you read the lines to the right. Thank you, Scooby-Doo. Okay, so when we look at this, it's not the same kind of structure as we were looking at with Bitcoin. So let's just go down a little bit lower and see if the entire crypto market has more structure underneath. Well, it has some structure and it's not light. It is reasonably light. It's not structurally strong like Bitcoin. Now, what could this mean? We could see a bleed out of the alts relative to Bitcoin's performance because of structure. This is called relative structure. The important thing is that we get direction and momentum and structural awareness from the cheat sheet, and then we get the structure cross-read in between charts. Now, let's have a look at Solana. So we know that Bitcoin has got a lot of structure. We know total crypto market cap is weak. Therefore, the alts are very weak at the current time. Now, what about the structure in terms of Solana? Let's throw that on again. Level 1 and Level 2 standard certification. So we can see up here, and this is how good structure is. It literally tells you where the algorithms will step in and seek to sell price down and where they will seek to support it. If you've ever seen consolidation, it's price getting caught between two levels of structure. A bit of an upthrust, all of that overhead structural resistance, structural overshoot, and a new basing. So basing pattern. Now, and you know the total crypto market cap had so much structural resistance. Now I'm showing you how to read between and through charts. And this is what I see when I look at Solana. I'm aware of Solana structure, I'm aware of total crypto market cap structure, and I'm aware of Bitcoin structure as well. Remember, we are financial residents. The amateurs, the temporary visa holders, the tourists, they will come into the market, into all markets, especially when it's green, under the promise of easy money, and then they get unfortunately obliterated. This is why it's very important to have financial literacy. And this is the major focus of this channel, because I know that so few people actually have it, and I want to make sure that you're one of them, because you'll need it, especially in the age of AI. Now, when we look at Solana, we definitely have structural support at this $112 and around that 20-cent mark, and then it gets pretty light. And if we were to look at just putting something like this over, you can see there are levels of structure underneath this price chart, but they're relatively light. Now, when you get a clustering of light structural levels, they can act way stronger, so you need to be aware of them. Now remember, if the market gets gripped by panic, and that could happen across total crypto market cap, you want to take advantage of lower levels. So where would some of these lower levels be hanging out? Let's have a look a little bit down. Okay, around that 103. So a lot of people would say, oh, I'll grab this structural level, I'll grab those ones. Personally, I grab down a little bit lighter, just a little bit deeper, or maybe even more deeply than that. Now, the reason that you do that is because you're coming into a very high economic impact event with the Japanese carry trade. Now, the BOJ raising interest rates could just unwind a lot of leverage positions inside the market. Just think about mortgage interest payments getting really expensive, and that will cause a lot of mortgage stress. But it's not about mortgages here. What it's about is that people borrow really cheaply from Japan, fund all of that really cheap money into the US markets, and then Japan ups the interest rate, and oh boy, their margins are called in, so please be aware. You'll find that CTKS structure is literally X-ray vision. Now let's look at Doge, and of course it applies across any price chart, and you interpret it exactly the same way with any price chart. Now what we can see inside Doge's price makeup, we had overhead structural resistance at that 13,469, so just make it 13,470, and we had structural overhead resistance at 13,333. Now this is a lot of structure playing through that 12,642 area. Always use exact precision. Unfortunately, when the tourists come in, they tend to round up to whole numbers. They tend to think that their gain is another person's loss, and good people don't like that. But the truth is, you've got millions and millions, tens of millions of decisions just happening all the time. If somebody profits, or if you profit, you don't take anybody else's money. And if you lose, they're not taking your money either. That's just a scarcity mindset. Again, it's a tourist idea. Now, when we look down at this particular level around that 11,570, this is like literally the first area of structural support inside Doge. At least you know where the levels are. You know how clustered they are. You know how they respect those levels. This happens across all price charts. CTKS structure has been proven over many years. And it's really special because what you do is you make sure you read it from the right. So you look at the current price and you say, okay, the price of Doge is currently 12,190. I know that 11,560 is good. I know that 12,600 is good. I know around that 13,400. You've already done your structural targets. You're ahead of 95% of people just out of the box. And what did that take? About 2 seconds. But Ken, how does it apply to something like gold, which has been trading for a very, very long period of time? Okay, well, let's check the structure. What do we see here? Now, we know that when structure is inside the market, price is just moving between structural levels, and it's a little bit hard to see that, but there's one down there. Now, when we look at this 43.50 mark, we can see that 43.50 and also the 43.08 has been holding gold within a consolidation range. Now, there's a bit of a problem when you have any chart. It doesn't matter what the chart is. If the chart is doing something like this, the longer it stays up there, the weaker it can actually get. And it can break either to the upside or to the downside. But that depends on intercorrelation and interconnection. Less than 50% of patterns play out as expected. So please be aware of candlestick patterns. But structure is 100% applicable at all times. Now, gold is currently favored as a flight to safety, a safe haven play. So what does it mean for gold? And maybe we do not an ABC, but we do something a little different. Okay, ABC is for Bitcoin. Let's do 1, 2, 3 for gold. And what do you think about doing Bitcoin and gold each day? Please let me know in the comments if this would help you out, because it's very easy for us to do. So when we look at gold, we can see overhead structural resistance at the 44.10. Of course, we've got to take out the 43.50 mark, and we know that that's important. Even before all of this price printed, we knew where the structure was, and that is our superpower. While the market is trying to figure out what is going on, we already know. Now, if we get a 3 move, we have to pass through 43.06 first, and the role of this structure is to capture price until a decision is made. Please let me know in the comments, what do you think? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2? Or is it going to be 3 in the next 24 hours? One thing to note, across all markets, there are always opportunities inside markets. And as I described inside this month's service video, there are inversions of price that you can track through ETFs and a variety of derivatives which allow you to access the opposite of the price. So if Bitcoin is doing something like this, I'll just make it easy. If Bitcoin is doing this, the inversion of that, there are inverse ETFs that do that. There are so many ways to engage with the market. Remember, the tourists come when all of the price goes up on the normal charts. But when we peak out like this, the inversion charts, the normal price charts come down, but the inversion charts keep on going up. It's like literally buying at the bottom, but you're not owning it. It's a derivative, and it's put in play for this specific reason. This is why residents do not ever have to leave the markets. And I will be talking about this a lot more inside the service. It's really important to do your daily positive affirmations for abundance, financial success, and happiness. Always know that the universe wants you to succeed. Every day you can show kindness, integrity, and gratitude is the secret sauce that unlocks abundance. Kindness, integrity, and gratitude are literally the doorway into abundance and out of scarcity. Now, why is that important? If you don't do these three things, you can stay inside scarcity. Now, what is scarcity? Scarcity is not having enough. And if you don't have enough, these would be the last three things that you would ever want to express. I think in the comments it would be really beautiful to talk about gratitude. Gratitude is a superpower, and our master of vitamin G is Ambassador Al. The ambassadors are terrific people, and Ambassador Al, every ambassador has their own special secret thing, but Ambassador Al, definitely gratitude. Now there's something really important in here. Kindness. A lot of people think that kindness is just always expressed outwardly, but I can tell you kindness starts with an internal reflection. For example, if you go through a life pullback, it's easy to see yourself as being victimized by greater powers, or an unfair world, or disease, or whatever that thing is. But the truth is, it's just life. Life is and always will give life pullbacks. Life pullbacks just give you the strength for the next life rally. If you look at it with kindness, you look at it as to how, if you're going through a life pullback, of course our love and healing thoughts are with you. And please always know that this is the opportunity for you to get kinder, stronger, more grateful, more caring, and not less. And we could also talk a little bit about kindness. Ambassador Brett is one of the kindest people that you'll ever meet. He's a wonderful human being. And Ambassador Bruno and Ambassador Al are also exceptionally kind. All of our ambassadors are kind, but they excel at it. Purpuratum actually developed the concept, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I think it's just a beautiful thing to walk through life with. And don't forget, these ambassadors are very, very successful people. Have a wonderful weekend ahead from Kate and myself, and we've got a really special song for you now.
I used to chase what I could earn, but missed the parts of me that yearn. Tried to fill an empty space with every win, with every race. But I was richest when I slowed, spoke to myself softly and low. Self-kindness is the doorway to a kind of wealth that stays. It's not the gold or the shine, it's the peace in your own mind. The way you speak when you're alone becomes the world you call your own. Self-kindness is the key that sets your whole soul free. The mirror used to show my doubt, now it's where I love me out loud. I stopped the war, I dropped the fight, and found the richest kind of light. But I was richest when I slowed, spoke to myself softly and low.
You don't have to prove a thing, you're already everything. Hold your heart like you
doorway to a kind of wealth that stays. When you choose to treat you right, the world responds with light. It's not fame or fortune told, it's being okay after all. Self-kindness is the key to live in love abundance.